Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second annual IU REDCap again. Uh, as you'll see, some of what I'm going to mention has already been mentioned by Joe and Stephanie earlier on, so I'll move right along with some of those very introductory slides. But I wanted to welcome not just the people who are here in person, but also the people who are attending on Zoom. And we should be able to, at the end, have some time for questions and answers. And the people on Zoom are encouraged to join in too. And you can submit questions in the chat, and we have someone who will be able to see those. But you'll also be able to unmute yourselves and ask the question, and we should be able to hear you, hopefully, fingers crossed, over Zoom. And of course, people who are in person are also welcome to ask questions too. So I will try to pace things pretty well to give us at least 5-10 minutes for questions, but we'll see. So this is an introduction session to REDCap, and it's ideally for people who are really just starting, and maybe you just got an account, and or maybe you're wondering about how to get an account or what REDCap is. And again, some of this will have already been mentioned, but we're going to first cover the history, a little overview and some stats about REDCap, and then touch on some different features of REDCap that might be of interest to you, some use cases for REDCap, and then on how to request a REDCap account. We're not going to get into much more detail than that, but any questions that you have about particular features, anything that we are only able to glance over, hopefully you'll have some time in the questions and answers to be able to ask about that. Again, some of this, and please, for any of you participating on Zoom or anybody in person, if at any point you're having difficulty hearing me, please let me know or drop something into chat letting me know. I'm going to try to not be walking around too much. I'm going to be here at the podium near the microphone, but do let us know. So REDCap was created in 2004 at Vanderbilt University. And then in 2006, the REDCap Consortium was officially launched. And again, these were all covered by Stephanie in the keynote. And then in 2009, the annual REDCap Con was established. Now, this is a slight discrepancy, and I don't know who's mistaken here, or maybe it's just a matter of different definitions involved. But my source had said that IU REDCap joined the consortium in 2009. Stephanie mentioned 2008, but it's not very significant. So as she mentioned, IU School of Medicine did make use of IU REDCap for the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine clinical trial. And I think some other institutions also. But we were one of those sites. REDCap Research Electronic Data Capture is a secure web-based software platform that supports data capture for research studies. And so, again, as Stephanie talked about, it was developed by researchers for researchers to be able to provide this intuitive interface for validated data capture, audit trails, so that was very important, the logging application that we have in REDCap, and various export procedures for data downloads to common statistical packages. So it's all going to involve CSV exports or XML files, but there are also different options to be able to do export in a way that's formatted for moving that data into particular statistical packages like SAS and R, and we'll mention that again later. And then there are procedures for data integration and interoperability with external sources. And so again, I'm going to introduce you to a few features, in fact, a few of the more advanced features in REDCap, things that after you get started with it and you start doing the basics, you'll be able to explore these other features, most of which increase REDCap's functionality in terms of these four points. So again, this is a kind of variation in part on the last slide. Let me turn that off. So REDCap is a secure web application for building and managing online surveys and databases. And REDCap can be used to collect virtually any type of data in any environment, including compliance with 21 CFR Part 11, HIPAA, GDPR, but it is specifically geared to support online and offline data capture for research, studies, and operations. And again, we'll talk about how that's expanded over the years in terms of use cases that you can use REDCap for. And the REDCap Consortium is a vast support network of collaborators composed of thousands of active institutional partners in over 100 countries. That's actually a little bit out of date, as we'll see in the next slide. And so each institution has its own licensed instance of REDCap. And so IU REDCap is supporting both Indiana University and all of the Indiana CTSI member institutions. So that includes IU Health, Purdue, Notre Dame, Regenstrief, Eskenazi, Parkview Health. I think I'm not leaving anyone out. There may be one. So REDCap by the numbers, again, this has been touched on before, although I think my numbers are more detailed. So we currently have 10,435 IU REDCap active users, over 24,000 IU REDCap projects. And then these other statistics are about the REDCap Consortium as a whole. These are all from last week, so even they're, I'm sure, out of date. Different REDCap features and use cases. And I'm going to start, as I mentioned, with a few features that are maybe a little more advanced. It may not be the most basic REDCap functionality that you're going to use. We'll sort of move over to that. But I wanted to sort of foreground these features, some of which are newer to IU REDCap, to encourage people to be aware of it and to make use of it and to consider using it. So REDCap is sort of famous for its use for internal data entry, where you can build a database and then you can do data entry or you can upload data to it. And also you can collect data through surveys. And that's been around for quite a while now. But just in the past year, IU REDCap has introduced MyCap. And so this is another way to do data collection entirely. It's a participant-facing mobile application. And so it's similar in a way to workflows that you're going to use with surveys, except instead of emailing or texting people survey invitations, you're going to be able to add them to a particular project on the MyCap mobile app. They'll download that on their own device, and then they're going to be able to be assigned particular tasks. That's the term for it in MyCap. You'll be able to assign them active tasks, and you'll be able to schedule that. They can be repeatable active tasks that they'll be able to complete all on their mobile device within the application. And one of the advantages of this is that it's going to allow you not only to have them be able to access all of their tasks in one place, but they'll also be able to correspond with you, with anyone on the project team within the application. And so rather than having communication scattered across many different places in your inbox, many different emails, instead you're able to make that very streamlined for the participants, that they're able to see everything and do everything that they need to do in connection with the project within that application. So I encourage you definitely to test that out, consider that for your data collection. And I'll just, one other thing that I'll add is that you're able to, in terms of setting up your project, it can encompass internal data entry, surveys, and MyCap. So it's not an either or. You're able to have both of those in use in your project. And that is available on any iOS device or any Android device. And then let's move on to REDCap and Twilio and REDCap's Mozio SMS services. So these are both third-party services that integrate with REDCap and allow you to send survey invitations via SMS instead of just via email. Both of them have somewhat different sort of subscription and funding models. And so some people will find that one of them is preferable to another. This is why REDCap offers both of them. But you can send surveys via SMS with either of those, or also send alerts and notifications via SMS. The REDCap API and the REDCap mobile app. REDCap API, it's an API interface that allows external applications to connect to REDCap remotely. And so you can use that to programmatically retrieve or modify data. As I mentioned, you're able to do data exports and data imports into and out of REDCap manually using CSV files, but using the REDCap API, you can actually automate that, program that to take data out of REDCap or put data into it. And then the REDCap mobile app is probably not what it sounds like at first glance to most people. And that's part of why I want to mention it here. It's always useful to be aware of in case you ever need it, but it's also useful to be aware of to know what it is and what it isn't. So in REDCap, you're able to do data collection. You're able to log into REDCap on a browser on your device, whether that's a phone, a laptop, a tablet. And so you would just log in directly into REDCap in the browser of your device. If you're sent a survey invitation, you're able to just click on the link and it's going to open the survey up in your browser, again, in your device. So that's sort of the standard way to do any kind of data collection in REDCap is through the browser on your device. There are circumstances, however, where you're wanting to do data collection, but you're in an area that has limited or no internet connectivity. And so you're not able to immediately open something up in your browser and enter the data. So the REDCap mobile app assists with that. So sometimes people see it and they think, well, this is what I can use as a general way to enter data into REDCap. I can sort of log into REDCap through the mobile app. But in fact, that's not what it is. The REDCap mobile app is specifically for this use of limited or no internet connectivity. But it can be hugely useful in that case because it's going to allow you to collect data, enter data while there's no internet connection, and then later on sync that data back to the database once there's an internet connection. External modules and REDCap ETL, and there will be a talk later today by my colleague Andy Aronson about external modules. Actually, he and I will be doing the talk together, but he'll be giving the section on our new advanced functionality form and on our external modules request. So external modules are individual packages of software that are created at some institution, at some REDCap instance, and then someone thinks that it might be useful at other institutions. And so they're third-party software packages that are then shared and made available. And so they can be added to any other REDCap instance, and they can extend REDCap's current functionality. And so we're going to make more available at IU REDCap the ability to request external modules that you come across and that you might find useful for your particular project. So there is a request form for that now. And I'll just add that they can be very, very useful. They're also sort of use at your own risk because someone created them at some point and it may be useful for some particular project, but not for everybody. That's why they're not part of sort of base REDCap functionality. And so some of them are more updated and are more robust than others. But that is there for you to make use of. And I wanted to highlight this REDCap ETL external module. because this was actually created in-house by our IU REDCap team. And so it performs an ETL process, extract, transform, load, from REDCap, and then loads that into another database. So again, talking about data exports, you're able to export your data as a PDF or as CSV data for analysis in these different software packages. REDCap does offer customized reports. So you're able to filter to get a particular subset of the data. So REDCap's not going to do a lot of data analysis. It does offer a pretty rudimentary stats and charts that it can bring up based on a report that you create. But it's not going to do a lot of in-depth analysis, especially between records. It can give you some aggregate data. There is a project dashboards feature that's going to allow you to use some smart functions and smart charts to produce some pretty useful aggregate data charts. But it's not going to allow you to do a lot of analysis within the database itself. However, you're able to get these filtered subsets of data as reports that you can then export. And then again, you're able to import data using the CSV spreadsheet files. There's a lot more REDCap features that you'll be able to explore. And so REDCap is designed to be pretty easy to get into and to just start using, building your first database, starting to send some surveys out, that sort of thing, getting yourself familiarized with it. But then there's a lot more that you can do with it, that you can start to integrate into your projects as you go along. So definitely, be willing to explore that. I'll just note here in passing that we really encourage you to feel comfortable with REDCap. Create a project, create test projects. You can make a copy of a project that you're working on if you want to have a kind of sandbox to try out something new. So feel comfortable doing that. But there's all these features, alerts and notifications, branching logic, which is display logic or skip logic, data quality, which you can see on the right there. That's the data quality rules application. And a logging application to have an audit trail. We've got this multi-language management feature just in the last year that's going to help make it much easier for you to provide different translations of a form and then allow participants or users to be able to toggle between those different translations. And there's also a randomization module that's really helpful for randomized clinical trials and any other project using randomization. Here's all of the field types in REDCap. And again, most of these are pretty straightforward. I won't go through all of them. If you're familiar with Qualtrics, you'll notice that there's maybe 2 or 3 that are in Qualtrics that are not currently in REDCap. And then I think we have several that are not in Qualtrics currently. But most of those are pretty straightforward. Surveys in REDCap, I'm just going to touch on here that you can distribute surveys via a public survey link or via individual targeted emails using the participant list. So that's when you're thinking about sending out surveys in REDCap, those are the 2 basic ways that you're going to do that. Either you have a URL that's available to be sent out to anyone, and they're going to create a record in the project by submitting a copy of that survey. Or if you already have a list of email addresses, you can add that directly into the project, into the participant list, and then be able to send out individualized survey links. You can automate the sending of survey invitations, and they can be enabled to be completed as indefinitely repeating instances. So if you have a case where somebody needs to do a daily survey or a weekly survey, you are able to set that sort of thing up in REDCap. REDCap has a number of different use cases. It was developed for research initially, but it can be used for operational support, quality improvement. Those are sort of the 3 main baskets of different types of projects. In principle, it could be used even for other things like that, but it's definitely able to support those three areas pretty broadly defined. These are some more specific examples of those types of use cases. All of these are in use, and of course there's here at IU REDCap, and of course there's many others. And so lastly, this is how you would request an IU REDCap account. So as I mentioned, it's available without charge to all IU and Indiana CTSI affiliated users, external collaborators, so people who are at other institutions but who are going to work with an IU or an Indiana CTSI institution user on a project that's been created in IU REDCap. They can also get accounts. And so you'll request an IU REDCap account. The link is at redcap.uits.iu.edu. And we encourage you to try it out, even if you're not sure whether or not you're going to use REDCap. Try it out, see if it works for you, and then feel free to share that information with anybody else who you think might be able to use it. And then once you have an account and have created your first project, you can use that project setup page. You're going to see it right away. When you create the project, there will be a tab for project setup. You can use that page as a checklist that'll walk you through the project design and setup process. And so now we have just a few minutes. We've got 4 minutes for questions and answers. So please go ahead. All right. Thanks. So the question on Zoom, which I don't know if everyone can see that on Zoom. They probably can if it's in the chat. But for the people who are here in person, the question was, if your account becomes inactive, if your IU REDCap account becomes inactive, how do we get that reactivated? Do you just write into redcap@iu.edu and ask them to reactivate the account? And the answer is yes, that's exactly how you would do that. So REDCap, or IU REDCap at least, does have it set up so that after 6 months of activity, your account may become inactive. I say may because sometimes it doesn't happen for some reason, but in general, if you're not logging in and you're not doing anything in a REDCap project for over 6 months, your account may become inactive. You'll get a message saying that your account was suspended, but all you need to do is then write in to us whenever you're ready to get that reactivated, and we can take care of that for you quickly. And were there any other questions on Zoom? All right, so you have a question here.
To put that together, I mean, that would be kind of a lot to ask, I know, but to have someone work with me to help put the REDCap project together.
Right, so that's a great question. So I think I've turned on the mic where people on Zoom would be able to hear the question, but basically the question is about getting support for building a project on REDCap. It is possible to do that in principle. We have some support for that on our IU REDCap team. A lot depends on the timeline of the project, and what kind of bandwidth we have to be able to assist with that. So there's not a one sort of standardized process there, but we'd definitely be happy to meet with people and hear about the project and see what we can offer. We do offer pretty robust support. And so we have a weekly office hours session that people can join, get help. We can also set up one-on-one Zoom calls to get some help and support. And of course, you can submit questions to redcap@iu.edu. There's also some other contacts we might be able to give if we're not able to help with the project build directly. Some other contacts with groups that do some of those project builds. So.
One more question on Zoom. I think we have like 1 minute.
Yeah.
Should projects be moved from development to production mode? There has been added projects where they remain in development mode. Is one better?
Right, so that's a great question. That's actually probably something that I should add into the intro. So I touched on the fact that the project setup page will walk you through the design and setup process. And at the very bottom of that page, you're going to see a button that says Move Project to Production. And so every REDCap project starts out in development mode, and that's for your design and setup process. As soon as you're ready to start collecting real data in the project, we highly recommend that you move the project to production at that point. And all that that's going to do, it's not going to keep you from making further changes to the project. What it's going to do is add a layer of admin review. If any changes are submitted to the project, it could actually delete or modify the meaning of data that's in the project. So it helps in terms of protecting your data, but it doesn't keep you from doing anything that you could do in development mode. So that's the distinction, is really just when you don't have real data in the project, you can stay in development. Once you are going to have real data in the project should be moved to production. Thank you all.